In an earlier episode of Author Notes, I mentioned that Elko, Nevada was an unlikely setting for a vintage vineyard novel. Want to know how Elko came to be not just the best location for the bootlegger's betrayal, but the only location? Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Tanya E. Williams, author of historical women's fiction, including The Bootlegger's Betrayal, and today I'm giving you a backstage pass in advance of the book's release. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit subscribe, and you'll be notified each week when I release new videos covering topics that shape a story idea into a novel readers will enjoy. Elko, Nevada was not my first choice as the setting for The Bootlegger's Betrayal. In fact, I consistently pushed aside the mere thought of Nevada for several months in the beginning. But Nevada, like a stick poking me in the side, continued to press in on me as I searched for an appropriate location for the story's setting. I scoured newspaper articles, online resources, and dove deep into the Prohibition wine history, searching for somewhere appropriate to set this Prohibition tale. I narrowed my search to well-known wine regions like Washington State, California, and Oregon. But I have to admit that from the very beginning, the idea of Nevada just wouldn't let me be. In my search for a location that wasn't Nevada, I stumbled upon the website of an Australian winemaker who mentions a female bootlegger from Elko, Nevada. Though the winery's brief paragraph of historical insight doesn't match the research I eventually uncovered, it was enough for me to concede the point that Nevada was indeed the only location for the bootlegger's betrayal. The woman's name was listed as Stella Belluomini, with an additional 2 different spellings of her last name in the short paragraph on the website. With 3 different surname variations, my research began. Finding information on Stella was not an easy task. I spent days at a stalemate with the internet, as not a single nugget of information was available. I finally reached out to the Elko Historical Society and the library, but that also didn't produce any quick results. In the end, it was my friend, Erin Davies, an avid historical fiction reader and a lover of research rabbit holes, who located a photograph of the headstone in the cemetery where Stella is buried. Aha! We finally had the correct spelling of Stella's last name. For reference, it is spelled Belluomini, and she lived from 1893 to 1938. Funny enough, or perhaps not funny at all, when Stella's death was announced in the Elko newspaper, her last name was misspelled. The continual misspelling of Stella's last name was the biggest challenge I encountered while researching her role as a bootleg queen, since this inconsistency permeated every newspaper article written about her during and after her arrest, trial, and subsequent jail time. With the correctly spelled last name in hand, I went back to the Historical Society and the library, and together we learned all we could about Stella's life. I was convinced Elko was the only place the story could be located, given Stella's ties to the community. It turns out she lived in Elko for 24 years. She was indeed known as the Bootleg Queen, and her arrest was orchestrated by way of a 4-day investigation, followed by a 24-hour stakeout involving the local sheriff's office, head prohibition officers, the U.S. Attorney General, and the district attorney. Add to all of this, the 24-hour stakeout resulted in one of the biggest wine raids in Nevada history, with over 820 gallons of wine being seized and then poured into the Humboldt River. Stella's contribution to this lot was a whopping 520 gallons of wine raided from her establishment. For reference, 820 gallons of wine is roughly the equivalent of 4,138 bottles. Oh, and in addition to her bootlegging activities, Stella also owned a speakeasy called Stella's Club. In the end, Stella was well rooted in Elko, and so the bootlegger's betrayal needed to be as well. In my research, I found a small mention of a Carson City courtroom for one of Stella's arraignments. Yes, she was arrested more than once, despite my fictional account being slimmed down to just the one big raid. This is where Carson City came into my storytelling picture, so I included it as the reporter, June Monroe's, hometown. There is very little information on Stella's time in jail. In fact, I was unable to confirm the exact location and conditions of her jail term. Due to some county court records, it appears that Stella was held in the Elko County Jail, but I've yet to uncover the true fate of a female prisoner in a jail system in Nevada in 1926. While wine isn't likely to originate in the Nevada region, given its desert-like topography, Prohibition didn't stop it from making its way into every corner of the state. When it comes to bootlegging, our minds often turn to bathtub gin and moonshine, and perhaps even the occasional treat of watered-down Caribbean rum. But in reality, there was an entire black market of sacramental wine that wasn't ending up in churches across the country. Due to the free-flowing nature of sacramental wine during Prohibition, I was able to tie California-grown Zinfandel into contraband for the purposes of my fictional story by giving Meg the hometown of Napa, California. So you can see, even though Nevada may not be known for its wine, it was the only setting for the bootlegger's betrayal. I hope you enjoyed this behind-the-scenes peek into how the location for the bootlegger's betrayal came to be. And if you did, give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe so you'll be notified each week when I release new content. The Bootlegger's Betrayal releases on May 13th, 2025. Until next time, happy reading!